Chosen one, what you did today just made God laugh in victory. Because while you thought you were simply surviving another day, heaven saw something completely different. Heaven saw you refusing to quit. Heaven saw you getting back up when everything around you gave you a reason to stay down. Heaven saw you choosing faith when fear was louder, choosing patience when frustration was burning inside you, and choosing to keep moving when you could not even see where the road was leading. You may not realize it yet, but that small decision you made today carried a weight you cannot measure. You thought it was just another choice. God saw it as another victory. Chosen one, there are moments in your life when the greatest victories do not look like victories at all. Sometimes victory is simply getting out of bed when your heart feels exhausted. Sometimes victory is refusing to answer hatred with hatred. Sometimes victory is walking away from an argument that would have stolen your peace. Sometimes victory is staying silent when your old self would have reacted. Sometimes victory is saying, I will trust God, even when you have no evidence that things are about to change. And today, you did something that proved you are becoming stronger than the version of yourself that once allowed fear to control your decisions. You may have been wondering why certain things have been happening around you. You may have asked yourself why some doors closed, why certain people disappeared, why plans changed, why opportunities slipped through your hands, and why the road became harder just when you thought you were finally making progress. But chosen one, what if some of those disappointments were actually divine protection? What if the door that closed was never meant to be your destination? What if the person who walked away was making room for someone who could recognize your value? What if the delay was not denial, but preparation? Sometimes God has to remove your attachment to what is familiar before he can introduce you to what is greater. And today you demonstrated that you are learning to let go. That is why heaven rejoices over the progress you cannot yet see. You did not chase what rejected you. You did not beg someone to understand you. You did not force a door that God had already closed. You did not destroy your future trying to rescue your past. You simply kept walking. And chosen one, never underestimate the power of continuing to walk. There were days when you wanted answers immediately. There were nights when you questioned whether your prayers were even being heard. There were moments when you looked around and saw other people moving forward, while you felt like your life was standing still. You wondered why they were receiving opportunities while you were receiving lessons. You wondered why they were celebrating while you were struggling. You wondered why their journey looked so easy while yours seemed filled with obstacles. But you were never seeing the whole picture. You were comparing your chapter to someone else's highlight. You were measuring your journey with human eyes while God was preparing something you could not yet comprehend. Chosen one, the fact that your life has been difficult does not mean that your life has been forgotten. In many cases, difficulty reveals what comfort never could. Hard seasons expose your strength. Disappointment exposes your character. Waiting exposes your patience. Rejection exposes your identity. Silence exposes whether you can still believe without constant confirmation. And today, you showed that you are learning to believe without needing everything explained. That is powerful, because there comes a point when you stop demanding that God reveal the entire plan and simply say, I trust you enough to take the next step. That step may seem small, but heaven notices small steps. The world celebrates dramatic transformations. God often celebrates quiet obedience. Nobody may have applauded you today for controlling your temper. Nobody may have congratulated you for walking away from temptation. Nobody may have noticed that you almost gave up but decided to continue. Nobody may know how much strength it took for you to smile while carrying something heavy inside. But God knows. God saw the moment. God saw the battle. God saw the thought you fought. God saw the decision you made when nobody was watching. And chosen one, that is why you should not measure your progress by applause. You should measure it by the person you are becoming. You are becoming more disciplined, more discerning, more patient, more focused, more peaceful, more difficult to manipulate, more willing to walk away from anything that costs you your purpose. And that transformation is worth more than temporary recognition. There was a time when you needed everyone to understand you. Now you are learning that you do not need to explain yourself to everyone. There was a time when rejection destroyed your confidence. Now you are beginning to understand that rejection can redirect you. There was a time when losing someone felt like losing yourself. Now you are realizing that sometimes losing someone is how you find yourself again. That is growth. And growth can feel uncomfortable because the old version of you is fighting to remain familiar. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming wise. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming selective. You are not losing your heart. You are learning where your heart belongs. Chosen one, today may have looked ordinary to everyone else, but spiritually, something shifted inside you. You made a decision that your future matters more than your temporary emotions. You decided that one bad moment would not determine your entire day. You decided that someone else's opinion would not define your worth. You decided that your mistakes would not become your identity. And that decision matters, because your future is being built through decisions that nobody sees. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are building your future. Every time you choose peace over revenge, you are building your future. Every time you choose faith over panic, you are building your future. Every time you choose to work when nobody is watching, you are building your future. Every time you refuse to return to something that God helped you escape, you are building your future. Do not despise these moments. One day you will look back and realize that the breakthrough did not begin when the miracle appeared. The breakthrough began when you changed. It began when you stopped waiting for everyone else to change before you changed yourself. It began when you stopped blaming your past for your present. It began when you stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question can transform your entire life. Because when you begin looking for the lesson, pain no longer has the final word. The betrayal can teach you discernment. The disappointment can teach you patience. The rejection can teach you self-respect. The delay can teach you preparation. The loneliness can teach you dependence on God. The closed door can teach you that not every opportunity is your opportunity. And chosen one, perhaps the most important lesson you are learning, is that you cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you become because of what happens to you. That is where your power begins. You cannot control who leaves. You cannot control who misunderstands you. You cannot control how quickly circumstances change. You cannot control whether someone recognizes your value, but you can control whether you surrender your peace. You can control whether you continue growing. You can control whether you allow bitterness to build a home inside your heart. You can control whether you wake up tomorrow and continue pursuing the person God created you to become. And today, you chose to continue. That is why this moment matters. You may think your biggest victory is somewhere in the future, but perhaps today's victory was simply proving that you can survive a day that once would have broken you. Think about that. There was a version of you who prayed to survive what you are now walking through. There was a version of you who cried over circumstances that no longer have the same power. There was a version of you who thought you would never recover, and yet here you are. Still breathing, still learning, still believing, still moving, still becoming. Do you understand how powerful that is? You survived days you thought would destroy you. You survived people you thought you could never live without. You survived failures you thought would permanently define you. You survived seasons when your confidence disappeared. And now you are standing at the edge of another chapter. Do not walk into that chapter carrying the identity of the person who suffered in the previous one. You are not required to remain who you were simply because that is who people remember. People may remember your mistakes. God sees your transformation. People may remember your weakest moment. God sees your willingness to rise. People may remember when you were lost. God sees where you are going. So stop allowing old versions of yourself to speak louder than your future. Chosen one, there is something else you need to understand. Your enemy does not always need to destroy you to stop you. Sometimes distraction is enough. Sometimes discouragement is enough. Sometimes comparison is enough. Sometimes keeping you obsessed with someone else's life is enough to prevent you from building your own. That is why you have to guard your attention. Your attention is powerful. Whatever constantly occupies your mind begins to influence your emotions, your decisions, and eventually your direction. If you spend every day thinking about who betrayed you, you give them space in your future. If you spend every day thinking about who rejected you, you allow their decision to define your identity. If you spend every day comparing yourself to people who are on a completely different journey, you will never recognize the blessings already growing around you. So today, reclaim your attention. Bring your mind back. Bring your focus back. Bring your energy back. Bring your dreams back. You have spent enough time trying to understand people who were never trying to understand you. You have spent enough energy proving your worth to people who had already decided not to see it. You have spent enough nights replaying conversations that cannot be changed. Let it go, not because what happened did not matter, but because your future matters more. Chosen one, forgiveness does not always mean allowing someone back into your life. Sometimes forgiveness means releasing the emotional power they have over you. Sometimes forgiveness means saying, I will not carry this into my next season. And that is freedom. You do not need revenge. You need restoration. You do not need everyone to apologize. You need peace. You do not need everyone to understand your journey. You need courage to keep walking it. And perhaps today you finally understood that. Perhaps today you stopped looking backward. Perhaps today you realize that the person you are becoming requires you to leave certain things behind. And that realization may have felt painful, but it was necessary. Because you cannot carry everything into your next chapter. Some habits have to stay behind. Some relationships have to stay behind. Some fears have to stay behind. Some excuses have to stay behind. Some versions of your identity have to stay behind. You are entering a season where the old methods will no longer produce the new results you desire. You will have to think differently. speak differently, move differently, choose differently, and most importantly, believe differently. You have to believe that your life can become greater than what you have experienced. You have to believe that your past does not have permanent authority over your future. You have to believe that the years you thought were wasted can still become wisdom. You have to believe that the pain you experience can become compassion. You have to believe that your failures can become instruction. You have to believe that the delay can become preparation. And you have to believe that what God is doing in you is just as important as what He is doing around you. Because sometimes you keep asking God to change your circumstances when God is first changing you for the circumstances you prayed for. You are asking for the platform, but God is building the character. You are asking for the opportunity, but God is building the discipline. You are asking for the blessing, but God is teaching you stewardship. You are asking for influence, but God is teaching you humility. You are asking for abundance, but God is teaching you responsibility. You are asking for the door, but God is preparing you to walk through it without losing yourself. That is why the waiting season matters. Do not rush through the preparation. Do not despise the quiet. Do not assume nothing is happening simply because you cannot see visible movement. Seeds grow underground before they break through the surface. And perhaps your life is in that underground season right now. Nobody sees the roots. Nobody celebrates the roots. Nobody takes pictures of the roots. But without roots, there is no tree. Without preparation, there is no lasting elevation. Without character, success can become destruction. Without wisdom, opportunity can become a trap. So if God is strengthening your foundation, let Him. If God is teaching you patience, learn it. If God is teaching you discipline, practice it. If God is teaching you discernment, listen. If God is teaching you how to stand alone, stop being afraid of solitude. Because sometimes God removes the crowd so you can finally hear the voice you were too distracted to recognize. And chosen one, perhaps that is what today was really about. Not about everything you accomplished. Not about how much money you made. Not about how many people noticed you. Not about whether everything went according to plan. Perhaps today was about one simple thing you did not give up, and heaven saw it. You may not have felt strong. You may not have felt victorious. You may have even gone to sleep tonight wondering whether you made any progress at all. But sometimes progress is invisible until you look backward. So look backward for a moment. Look at who you were. Look at what you tolerated. Look at what you believed. Look at what used to control you. Look at the things you thought you could never overcome. Then look at yourself now. You are different. You are still becoming, but you are different. You have learned things pain could only teach. You have developed strength you did not know you possessed. You have discovered that your heart can break and still beat. You have discovered that disappointment can come without ending your story. You have discovered that loneliness does not mean abandonment. You have discovered that waiting does not mean forgotten. And perhaps most importantly, you have discovered that you can keep moving even when you do not have all the answers. That is the victory. So when you wake up tomorrow, do not wake up thinking you are behind. Wake up knowing that you are being prepared. Do not wake up trying to prove yourself to the world. Wake up determined to honor the purpose inside you. Do not wake up wondering who believes in you. Wake up believing enough to take the next step. And when fear whispers that nothing is changing, remember everything you have already survived. When doubt tells you that you are not enough, remember how many times you continued despite feeling inadequate. When discouragement tells you to quit, remember that there was a time when you desperately wanted to reach the place where you are standing now. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified because you made mistakes. You are not behind because your timeline looks different. You are not weak because you needed to rest. You are not failing because you are still learning. You are becoming, and becoming takes time. So keep becoming, keep praying, keep working, keep learning, keep forgiving, keep releasing, keep building, keep choosing peace, keep choosing discipline, keep choosing faith. Keep choosing yourself in the healthy ways that honor the life God has entrusted to you. Because one day, you are going to look back at this exact season and realize that what felt like punishment was preparation. What felt like silence was protection. What felt like delay was development. And what felt like an ending was actually the beginning of something you could not yet recognize. And that is why what you did today matters. You kept going. You chose not to return to the old version of yourself. You chose not to let one disappointment define the entire story. You chose not to let someone else's behavior dictate your character. You chose not to surrender your peace. You chose to keep moving. And chosen one. Sometimes that is exactly how victory begins. Not with thunder, not with applause, not with everyone suddenly recognizing your name, but quietly. Inside you with one decision, one breath, one prayer, one step, one refusal to quit, and then another, and another. Until one day you realize that the person who once begged for a way out has become the person capable of walking through the very door they once prayed would open. And when that door finally opens, you may realize that the greatest miracle was not the door itself. It was who you became while waiting for it. Chosen one, there is a reason you cannot go back to the person you used to be. You have seen too much. You have learned too much. You have survived too much. Once you have experienced what it feels like to lose everything you thought you needed and discover that you were still standing, you cannot look at life the same way again. There is a strength that only comes after you have been tested. There is a confidence that only comes after you have faced your fears. There is a peace that only comes after you stop trying to control everything. And there is a wisdom that only comes after life teaches you lessons that no book could ever explain. That wisdom is growing inside you now. You are learning that not every battle deserves your energy. You are learning that not every question deserves an answer. You are learning that not every person deserves access to you. You are learning that not every opportunity is a blessing. You are learning that sometimes saying no is an act of self-respect. And you are learning that walking away does not always mean losing. Sometimes walking away means choosing yourself. Sometimes walking away means choosing your future. Sometimes walking away means choosing peace over temporary comfort. And chosen one, there will be people who misunderstand that. Let them. There will be people who call you selfish because you finally established boundaries. Let them. There will be people who say you have changed. Tell them nothing. You do not owe everyone an explanation for your growth. A tree does not explain itself because it grows. A river does not apologize because it changes direction. The sunrise does not ask permission before appearing, and you do not need permission to become the person you were created to become. You have spent too much time asking whether other people will accept the new you. Ask yourself whether you can accept the new you. Can you accept the fact that you are no longer willing to tolerate what once destroyed your peace? Can you accept that your priorities have changed? Can you accept that your circle may become smaller? Can you accept that some conversations no longer interest you? Can you accept that certain environments no longer feel like home? Can you accept that your appetite for chaos is disappearing? Because when you begin healing, chaos starts feeling exhausting. When you begin growing, meaningless conversations become exhausting. When you begin understanding your purpose, distractions become more obvious. You start seeing things differently. You begin noticing what drains you. You begin noticing what strengthens you. You begin noticing who celebrates you only when you are beneath them. You begin noticing who becomes uncomfortable when you start believing in yourself. You begin noticing who only supports you when your success does not threaten their insecurity. And once you see these things, you cannot pretend you do not see them. That is part of awakening. That is part of becoming aware. Chosen one, perhaps the reason some relationships have become uncomfortable is because you are no longer willing to participate in the version of yourself those relationships were built around. Maybe someone knew you when you had no boundaries. Maybe someone knew you when you constantly said yes. Maybe someone knew you when you were afraid to speak. Maybe someone knew you when you needed their approval. But now you are changing. And when you change, the dynamics around you must change too. Do not be surprised when some people become distant. Do not chase them. Do not panic. Do not immediately assume you did something wrong. Sometimes distance is simply confirmation that the season has changed. You cannot force every relationship to follow you into every chapter. Some people were assigned to your journey for a season, not forever. Some people were there to teach you. Some were there to challenge you. Some were there to reveal your strength. Some were there to show you what you never want to become. And some were there simply to remind you that you deserve better. Every person does not have to stay for their presence to have had meaning. Sometimes the lesson remains after the person leaves. And chosen one, stop being afraid of endings. An ending is not automatically a tragedy. Sometimes an ending is evidence that something has completed its assignment. You do not cry because winter eventually leaves. You do not become angry because a chapter has a final page. You simply turn the page. And that is what you are being asked to do now. Turn the page. Not because the past was meaningless, but because the future is calling. There are experiences waiting for you that require a version of you who is no longer controlled by the past. There are opportunities that require confidence. There are relationships that require emotional maturity. There are responsibilities that require discipline. There are blessings that require wisdom. And there are places you cannot enter while constantly looking behind you. You cannot drive forward while staring at the rearview mirror. You cannot build a new life while constantly rehearsing the old one. So take the lesson, take the wisdom, take the strength, but leave the weight. You do not need to carry every painful memory as proof that it happened. You can remember without remaining imprisoned. You can acknowledge without reliving. You can forgive without reopening the door. You can love someone from a distance. You can appreciate the past without returning to it. That is maturity. And chosen one, maturity is one of the greatest signs that your season is changing, because there comes a point when you stop reacting to everything. You start observing. You stop explaining everything. You start understanding, you stop chasing. You start attracting what aligns with who you have become. You stop begging for attention. You start protecting your attention. You stop trying to win every argument. You start protecting your peace. You stop asking everyone to validate your decisions. You start trusting your discernment. That is when your life begins to feel different. Not because everything outside of you suddenly changed, but because everything inside of you did. And that internal transformation is something nobody can take away. Someone can take an opportunity. Someone can leave. Someone can criticize you. Someone can misunderstand you. Someone can reject you. But they cannot take away what you have learned. They cannot take away your wisdom. They cannot take away your resilience. They cannot take away the discipline you developed. They cannot take away the courage you earned. They cannot take away the faith that grew inside you during the darkest nights. And that is why your difficult seasons were not wasted. Every tear taught you something. Every disappointment revealed something. Every closed door redirected something. Every delay developed something. Every struggle strengthened something. You may not have chosen the process, but you can choose what the process produces. And chosen one, choose strength, choose wisdom, choose compassion, choose courage, choose discipline, choose faith, choose purpose. Do not let pain make you cruel. Let pain make you deeper. Do not let betrayal make you incapable of love. Let betrayal make you more discerning about where you place your love. Do not let rejection convince you that you are worthless. Let rejection teach you that your value cannot depend on someone's decision. Do not let failure convince you that you are finished. Let failure teach you how to begin again. Because beginning again is one of the most powerful things you can do. There is no shame in starting over. There is no shame in rebuilding. There is no shame in admitting that something did not work. There is no shame in changing direction. There is no shame in saying, "This is no longer healthy for me." There is no shame in choosing a different path. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that the path you are walking is not the path you want anymore. And when you do that, do not allow people to make you feel guilty. They are not living your life. They do not know the battles you fought privately. They do not know the prayers you prayed. They do not know the nights you spent questioning everything. They do not know what it cost you to become this version of yourself. So stop allowing people who only saw one chapter to judge the entire book. Your story is still being written, and chosen one. Perhaps the most beautiful part is that you are beginning to understand that you do not need to know every sentence before you keep reading. You just need enough faith for the next page. You do not need to know exactly how everything will work out. You need enough courage to take the next step. You do not need the entire map. You need direction. You do not need everyone's approval. You need conviction. You do not need certainty. You need faith. And faith does not mean you never feel afraid. Faith means fear does not get the final decision. You can be afraid and still move. You can be uncertain and still move. You can be tired and still move slowly. You can have questions and still trust. You can have tears in your eyes and still take another step. That is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is refusing to allow fear to become your master. And chosen one, fear has controlled enough of your life already. It controlled opportunities you never pursued. It controlled conversations you never had. It controlled dreams you postponed. It controlled decisions you made for other people's approval. It convinced you that you were not ready. It told you that you needed more time. It told you that you would fail. It told you that people would laugh. It told you that you would be rejected. And maybe some of those things happened. But look at you. You survived them. So why are you still allowing fear to predict your future based on your past? Fear is a terrible prophet. It always shows you the worst possible ending. It never shows you what could happen if you tried. It never shows you the doors that might open. It never shows you the people you might meet. It never shows you the version of yourself you might discover. It only says, what if it goes wrong? But chosen one, start asking a different question. What if it goes right? What if the opportunity works? What if the dream becomes real? What if the relationship is healthy? What if the business grows? What if the door opens? What if the thing you have been praying for is closer than you think? What if the delay was preparing you? What if the rejection redirected you? What if the struggle strengthened you? What if everything you thought was breaking you was actually building you? You do not know. And because you do not know, you cannot allow fear to make the decision. Step forward, take the opportunity, make the call, start the project, learn the skill, write the first page, send the application, have the conversation, begin again. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be willing. Because perfection is often another disguise for procrastination. You keep saying you are waiting until you are ready. But sometimes readiness comes after you begin. You learn by doing. You grow by trying. You become confident through experience. You become disciplined through repetition. You become courageous through action. And chosen one, you cannot think your way into every new version of yourself. At some point, you have to act. You have to move. You have to put your faith into motion. Because faith without movement becomes fantasy. You can pray for a new life, but you must also make choices that support that new life. You can pray for peace, but you may have to stop returning to chaos. You can pray for growth, but you may have to leave comfortable habits. You can pray for better relationships, but you may have to become better at communicating. You can pray for opportunities, but you must prepare yourself to recognize them. You can pray for abundance, but you must learn responsibility. The blessing does not replace the preparation. The blessing requires it, and perhaps that is what God has been doing in you all this time, preparing you quietly, teaching you quietly, strengthening you quietly, correcting you quietly, redirecting you quietly. You thought nothing was happening because nothing was visible, but roots were growing, and now you are beginning to feel something different. You are becoming less desperate. You are becoming more patient. You are becoming more intentional. You are becoming harder to manipulate. You are becoming less impressed by appearances. You are becoming more interested in substance. You are becoming more protective of your time. You are becoming more aware of your energy. You are becoming more selective about what deserves your attention. And chosen one, that is not you becoming arrogant. That is you becoming aware of your value. There is a difference. Arrogance says, I am better than everyone. Confidence says, I no longer need to be better than everyone. You are learning the second one. You do not need to compete with everyone. You do not need to prove that you are ahead. You do not need to announce every move. You do not need to explain every blessing. Sometimes the strongest move is silence. Build quietly, heal quietly, learn quietly, work quietly, pray quietly. Let the results speak when the time comes. Because not everyone deserves access to your plans while they are still fragile. Some dreams need privacy while they are becoming strong enough to stand. You do not plant a seed and dig it up every morning to see if it is growing. You water it, you protect it. You give it time, you trust the process. Do the same with yourself. Give yourself time. You are not going to become everything overnight. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to have days when you feel strong and days when you feel uncertain. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to learn. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to change your mind when you gain new wisdom. You are allowed to outgrow old dreams. You are allowed to discover new ones. You are allowed to become someone your younger self never imagined. And chosen one, do not let your younger self's fears become your adult life's prison. You have new information now. You have experience now. You have wisdom now. You know what you did not know before. Use it. Do not keep making decisions from the perspective of who you were. Make them from the perspective of who you are becoming. That means you may have to disappoint people. You may have to say no. You may have to walk away. You may have to start over. You may have to be misunderstood. But if protecting your future requires disappointing someone, then let them be disappointed. If protecting your peace requires leaving an environment, leave. If protecting your purpose requires changing your habits, change them. Because there is a cost to everything. There is a cost to staying. There is a cost to leaving. There is a cost to comfort. There is a cost to growth. The question is not whether you will pay a price. The question is which price you are willing to pay. Are you willing to pay the price of discipline now so you can enjoy greater freedom later? Are you willing to pay the price of patience now so you do not make decisions from desperation? Are you willing to pay the price of saying no now so you can say yes to something greater later? Are you willing to pay the price of being misunderstood so you can remain true to yourself? That is where maturity begins. When you stop choosing what feels easiest and start choosing what serves your future. Chosen one, your future deserves your present discipline. Your future deserves your focus. Your future deserves your courage. Your future deserves your attention. Do not keep sacrificing tomorrow for temporary comfort today. Do not trade your purpose for distractions. Do not trade your peace for approval. Do not trade your future for someone else's temporary validation. You have already given enough of yourself away. Now it is time to gather yourself, gather your focus, gather your courage, gather your discipline, gather your faith, and begin again. Not from zero, from experience. You are not starting from nothing. You are starting with everything you learned. Every mistake is information. Every failure is information. Every disappointment is information. Every difficult conversation is information. Every closed door is information. And when you use that information wisely, your next chapter becomes stronger than your last. So keep walking, chosen one. Keep moving even when the road is quiet. Keep building even when nobody notices. Keep believing even when the evidence has not arrived. Keep preparing even when the opportunity has not appeared. Keep becoming even when the transformation feels slow. Because there are things ahead of you that require the person you are becoming. And when the moment arrives, you will understand why you could not stay where you were. You will understand why certain people had to leave. You will understand why certain doors remained closed. You will understand why certain prayers seemed unanswered. You will understand why certain seasons lasted longer than you wanted. And perhaps you will look back at today and realize that what felt like an ordinary day was actually another brick in the foundation of the life you were building.